Hey everyone, welcome to Sketchaday. I'm Spencer, where every day I give you something new and hopefully interesting about sketching. And I just realized I said new, but not everything I share is new. What's most important is that you guys are practicing. And I love drawing, and I just want to share a couple things that I know about drawing with all of you. So today what I'm going to do is sketch another simple object, and we'll focus on kind of the mechanics of drawing and how that works as I approach this object. And we're going to be sketching a tape measure. So I have one here with me just so I can understand kind of the functionality and what's happening. We've got this button in front, belt clip, and the tape itself, and kind of a general sense of proportion and shape. So with that, let's get right into it. If you need something to draw, feel free to use the links below in the video description. That helps this channel. I get a little bit of a kickback if you guys buy through Amazon, for example, full disclosure, but that helps me cover equipment and materials that I'll be using. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I've used this technique before, and it's kind of a staple. It's something that I do a lot, and that is we're going to sketch light till we get it right. So I have with me this Copic marker, C3. Now it's important as I'm sketching to think about point of view. Okay, that's an important part of deciding how to draw and what to draw. For example, drawing the tape measure at eye level gives a different impression of scale and proportionality than drawing it below eye level or above eye level. So because this is an object that's small and typically something I'd hold in my hand, I'm going to start with a wireframe that appears to be below eye level. So in other words, I'm going to see a lot more of the top than I would of the rest of the object. So there we have a simple wireframe. Now from here, I can do whatever I want. I can decide which side is the front, which side is the back. Because this is a product sketch, I'm going to pick the side that's closest to me to be the front. And of course, since this is the tape measure, there is a tape of some sort. And I'm just going to block that in with a little bit of gray marker there so I know where I'm putting it. Now, I can design this to be however I want. So first thing I'm going to do is just throw in a couple curves here just to give myself a general shape to play with. Okay, just like so. And because we sketched that initial perspective outline, it becomes fairly easy to get the rest of this design in. If I want to add some thickness to the side, or maybe some sort of grip or belt clip, you can do that here as well, like so. And now I have a belt clip as part of my design. Now there is also that button on the front of the tape measure that kind of stops the tape when you extend it out, and I want to add that detail into my sketch here. So just ever so lightly, again, following those lines of perspective that I drew already, I can put those in like so. Just like that. Okay, so I've got my rough sketch, and I can extend these lines for the tape down. Let's add a little bit of a curve to this, maybe some marker indications, and our little grip flange on our tape measure here. And just so I have a sense of place on my page, I'm going to rough in a little background there. Okay, so that concludes the first part, which is light till you get it right, or when in doubt, rough it out. Now I can start to add line work or marker or whatever it is that I feel like adding. I'm using a Papermate Flair pen. Okay, and rather than trace, I'm re-sketching my object and adding details where I need them. But because I did the hard work of figuring out my perspective, I don't really need to do that again. I can just use those lines that I sketched before as kind of a guide. Okay. Now, most of the time I do draw with my shoulder. However, since this is a smaller drawing, I'm using my wrist a little bit, in fairness, so full disclosure there. Ultimately, if you're just starting out, you want to focus, however, on drawing with your shoulder. Okay. Now notice I'm rotating the paper to the angle that works best for me. So as you do your warm-up exercises and you find that sweet spot for drawing your best lines, you'll want to rotate your paper to the point that you're most comfortable drawing. Okay, just a couple more lines here. And I made a mistake, oh no. But one of the cool things about drawing is you learn to work with your mistakes. So I've got two options, and here's the mistake. I drew these lines all the way through my belt clip. Now I have a choice. I can move the position of the belt clip or maintain the position of the belt clip and kind of work with the lines. I'm going to go kind of in between here and have my belt clip start somewhere on this edge like so. And now I can draw the rest of this and essentially use the line that was already there for the outside of my sketch with just a very subtle shift in position. And now it looks like that was totally intentional. So the more you draw, I think I mentioned this before, with a pen that doesn't forget and is unforgiving, the more thoughtful you, by necessity, become when it comes to your sketches. And you kind of have to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this or that work, right? Let's just throw some screws in here for the case on my tape measure. Okay, and I'm going to add something I didn't add in my initial sketch, and that is I'm just going to add some grips here. So heavy line, light line, heavy line, light line, heavy line, light line. And the reason for that is I want to show some sense of depth as far as where these lines are located. So if you're curious, you can watch some of my earlier videos about line weight and how to approach that and where to put your line weights in your sketch. But essentially where there's an overlap, I'm making that just a heavier line or heavier detail. Okay, so now my tape measure here has a nice grippy area. So if I grab this thing, you know, it's gonna grip my hand and hopefully feel good. And just a little bit of a detail here on the front. Okay, draw with my shoulder again. And we can get our little hook here on the end of our tape measure. And I'm just going to mock in some markings. Just along the way here, and maybe a shadow since this is coming out of the body. Okay, just a little shadow like so. Alright, and remember we added this neat little background, so let's just finish that out. And maybe just a little bit of a shadow to help this pop off my simple background. Like so. Now, this is a pretty plain sketch by itself. Okay, and I truly believe the foundation of a good sketch is, you know, good, energetic, fun line work. Because that's going to engage your viewer. But one thing you can do, if you want, is you can add some color. So I might think, okay, where are the most important elements on the page, and how can I pull some attention onto those elements? Now, I do have the main body of the tape measure. I've got one gray marker. So what I'm going to do is decide on, okay, which side of this thing is getting more light. I'm going to assume my light source is coming from the top left here. And I'm just going to add a little bit of shading to to this gray section of my tape measure. Now, because I'm using a Papermate Flair pen, my marker won't bleed. Okay, but also because I'm using one marker, I'm gonna have to go over some areas a couple times just to see if I can get a little darker tone. Okay, and to do that, you just want to wait till the marker dries, kind of hit that area again. This actually works a lot better on marker paper, but marker paper is a little expensive, so unless you're really into this, I wouldn't actually recommend getting marker paper. I'm really into it, so I do like sketching on marker paper. However, this is just regular printer paper, so I just probably wasted a bunch of marker right there. In any case, I've got some gray for my body, and this little rubber area on the top, I've got two orange markers with me. I've got a YR04 from Copic, and I've got an 07. And so what I'm doing is on the lighter surfaces, okay, I'm going in with the lighter orange, and on those parts that wouldn't receive as much light, I can hit with my darker complementary orange marker here. Now the trick essentially is that in real life, if you look around you in a room or wherever you may be, when you have a change in surface direction, that's where you have your contrast. So essentially by me placing this light tone against the dark tone, I'm suggesting that there is a change in surface direction. Okay, and with that change in surface direction, I have a shadow or a difference in contrast. Okay, and just mocking in kind of what the shadow here would be, you know, if this got projected down. And I can do that because practice, this front corner isn't perfect, but if you want to understand shadows, I've got plenty of videos on those. You can take a look. I believe it's in the basics section about shadows. So as far as a design sketch or just even a quick concept sketch goes, I might, you know, take something to kind of this level. Here's a little contour line to show what's going on. And as you can imagine, if this is a concept sketch, you'd have some kind of notes, okay, describing what's happening, maybe even as simple as it is, just an arrow and some description showing what's happening as well. But again, it's just a quick sketch, so you can add things as you go. It seems like tape measures are almost Swiss Army knives these days, so maybe there's a little compartment up top here where I can you know, flip this open and store something in there or what have you. But in any case, sky's the limit. You get to decide how you tell the story of your product or your object as you're sketching it. Well, thanks for hanging, and hopefully you've picked something up from this really quick video sketching a tape measure. You know, it's not the most exciting object, but a lot of these principles are the principles I use when I do more complex sketches. I do read the comments, and I've seen some requests for more complex things. And the reason I don't do that is it takes me hours to do really detailed digital complex things. And so what I'm thinking is I may open up an opportunity for people to essentially sit with and sketch with me for a few hours online, type of thing that you might consider to be an online workshop. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to let me know in the comments below or shoot me an email. Probably be pretty accessible. Of course, I'd have to charge a little bit for that because of the time involved. But if you are interested, I'd love to know. I'd love to hear what you'd love to see, whether it's a topic or technique or what have you. Also, you can find me online. I'm pretty easy. You can actually just Google me, but I hang out a lot on Instagram these days, instagram.com/sketchaday.com or @sketchaday.com. You can also find a shop of the stuff I create. So I have some artwork and t-shirts available at phase0.co, and you can check it out there. I also have my PDF of 500 sketches that I produced a couple years ago, and I've got a new project in the works that I'll be putting up soon. So thanks again for joining, and be sure to subscribe, tell your friends. Let's get the subscriber count up to 100,000. Let's see it happen. So we'll see you next time right here on Sketch A Day.